Okay, I'm not really sure what happened there. Um, I'm assuming that it's the internet connection that just, yeah. Give me a second. Let everyone join again. Taklisa, I'm so sorry about that. I'm not really sure, but let me get you to join me again. Sorry about that, guys. I think maybe it's my internet connection that's really bad. The rain and wind is really bad here.
Yeah,
So
network.
maybe, yeah, I think maybe it's the wind and the rain and all of that. Maybe it's messing up with my network. So apologies for that. Are we
Yeah,
good
I'm
now?
back. Yeah, I'm good. Yes, yes, I'm
Okay,
back now.
okay, great.
See you.
All right,
Yeah.
great. What I was saying was basically my biggest takeaway from what you had said is that basically we must be involved as the people who live in a community, be involved so that you know exactly what is happening within your municipality. Because if you don't know, then you might miss out potentially on opportunities just because you don't know when the information is readily available for everyone to access, and then you haven't tapped into that information, so you're missing out basically on opportunities. That I think that's basically what I
Yeah.
also feel is that we really need to be involved as much as people sometimes don't like involvement with municipalities and governments in general, sometimes because of whatever reasons. But I
Yes,
think
yeah.
this is the time where it's really an opportunity for us to capitalize if you are interested in investing, in growing your investment portfolio, in developing anything, and even just a matter of purchasing your own house. It's just a matter of purchasing your own house. You don't have to build a 20-story apartment complex for that to happen. Yeah, so for everyone who just joined us again, apologies. I think it was my network that was cutting us off. And but we're back now. We're back. So Taklisa, like maybe walk me through a bit of your property journey in terms of your first investment property. How did that go? Do you still own the property? Did you make money? Did you lose money? What exactly happened?
Oh, my journey is an interesting one. It was not an easy process. It's interesting, and I hope that somebody who's listening will learn from my experience. When I started when I bought my first property, it was not a very easy journey. Why? Because before I owned property, I was in debt. Was a point where they repossessed my car. Things were not going well financially. I was blacklisted. I was on debt review. I was owing a lot of money to creditors because of, bad financial decision. Not only that, but and also it was a point that I was not working, so I couldn't sustain, the repayment of my debts. So as a
Yeah.
result, I was defaulting many repayments, and things didn't go well. But it took me to a point where I took a decision to say, you know what, like I said, you cannot forever be renting. You're getting old, you've got kids. It's time for you now to start building your wealth, having your own property, because this life that you're living is not sustainable. If you die one day, what's going to happen to your children? What are you going to leave behind? So that was a wake-up call for me on that thought, and I decided I brought myself into the situation, and I am the only person that can take myself out of the situation. So I started clearing all my accounts, taking myself out of this mess, because it was swallowing me, it was drowning me. I was stressed, I was depressed. When you're in debt, you don't have you don't have a positive of anything in life. So I had to deal with that situation, with that animal. And it took me some time. I had to be disciplined, I had to be focused, so that I will be able to achieve what I want. And it's important that whoever wants to start a journey of property, it's important that you understand that for you to get into property, you need to have a good credit record. Without a good credit record, I'm sorry, but the bank will never be able to give you, bond for you to buy the property. So I took that decision, and I knew that for me to own a property, I need firstly to deal with the situation, and take myself out of the situation and build a good credit record so that I may be able to go to the bank and apply for a bond.
How
So,
would you say,
yes.
just to interrupt you quickly, sorry, how would you say, like, how did you, because as you were mentioning, it really is difficult when you have a lot of debts to get out of it. When you're seeing this large amounts of debts, what is it that made you, that drove you to actually push through it? Because I've seen a lot of people who have a lot of debts, they really wish to start to get out of debt, but it's just so big and it looks like a mountain that they cannot climb. What is it that really pushed you to climb that mountain and overcome it?
I became honest with myself that this is not the life that I want to live.
Sure.
You know, I became honest to myself that I've got children, that one day I need for them to have something, from the inheritance from their parents. So for me, the net debts, I'll never be able to build anything. Remember, when you have debts, you can't even apply for a credit for a phone.
Yeah.
Can't apply a clothing account. You can't apply for anything except, it's so funny that I was able to buy a car. Sometimes I don't know how these systems of banks, they can approve you for the car, but they can never approve you for the house. But anyway, but the challenge was that you will get a very high interest rate because they will tell you that this is the situation. Your debt, your credit record doesn't
You're a
look
high
good.
risk. You're a high
Yes, they are
risk
very
client.
high risk. But it
Yes.
took something out of me that I need to be honest and forgive myself. Forgive myself that I made bad decisions that had led me to this situation, and I am the only person that can take myself out of the situation. So I had to confront myself with that. And also, what also led me as well to get out is because I'm a town planner. I see the development that are coming, but I can't do anything with it because I'm a high risk. So I can't progress.
So you saw all the opportunities to invest in property, but you couldn't invest in it because of your bad financial decisions. I think, yeah, I understand, yeah.
Yes. So I had to deal with that animal. And it took me time. That's why it's important that you have to be patient with yourself. You need to be patient with yourself and don't listen to all the noise that is around, because people around you, they'll be achieving things and then you feel like you're being pressured. And that's where the depression starts. So I had to be in my space where I need to focus and be patient with myself and know that this is the goal that I want to achieve. And I give myself 5 years to take myself out of this mess so that I can be able to move from this level to another. So that is the thing. Once I took that decision, then I was able then to start looking around for a property because I've settled all my debts. I was able then to look for a property. However, it was not an easy journey, even though I cleared all my accounts. Banks scrutinize every little detail in your bank statement. When they ask you that they want a bank statement, they know what they want the bank statement for. They will even ask you why there's 150 that goes off of your account. Where is it going?
Yeah.
So for me, it's been an interesting journey that I've learned, because I had, even at the time when I took myself out of debt review, the bank that put me in debt review was the same bank when I cleared and I wanted the bond. They asked me, they wanted proof that I was out of the debt review. And I asked myself, how do you have that information? I gave you 2 years ago. Well, you're asking me again the same information that you have. But you need to be, you need to be focused, when you start getting property. You need to be focused. You need to ensure that you know what you want. You never give up, because there was a point, I remember, I was back and forth with the agent, back and forth. The agent says the bank wants this. And I said, I gave them. I said, just give the information. And they say they wanted proof that you've cleared all your accounts. They wanted proof that the overdraft that you had, is paid up. But it's the bank that I had the overdraft. You have that information. I couldn't understand, but you get so frustrated and you want to give up on the process. But something that's just, it just resonated with me to say that you have a goal, and for you to achieve a goal, you need to climb this milestone and overcome this, so that you can, so that you can be able to move to the next level.
And so then you move to the next level.
I moved to the next level, and finally they gave me a bond, but it was never 100% bond. That's important. It's important to save. Saving is very important, because if I was not a person, after I created my account, I started to adopt the habit of saving and saving and saving, because I knew that one day I'm sure I'm going to need this money. And somehow that money, it was needed because the bank gave me 90%. And they said, this is the amount that we can give you. So you need 10% of the bond for you to be able to get the bond. So thank God that I saved that 10%. I was able to say, okay, there's the savings. Then I was able to get the bond.
So was it a house for you to live in, or was it for an investment purpose?
It was for investment. It was
the house that you bought.
It was for investment. It was paid for investment. I bought a 1-bedroom apartment because at that point, that is what I could afford.
Yeah.
So it's important for one to understand, okay, based on my income, this is what I could afford, and I went with it. So you don't have to stretch yourself because you want to get into property, and every opportunity. It doesn't mean every door that opens that door belongs to you. So you need to understand that, okay, this is how much I can afford. After all deduction, I'm left with this. For this amount, the disposal that I have, this is how much I can take out of that disposal for me to pay the bond.
And I always say that no matter if your bank says that you can afford, let's say 600,000 rand as a bond for your loan, look at that 600,000 rands, look at the repayments, and then think about whether you can really afford it or not, because you know your expenses better than the bank knows your expenses. The bank, at the end of the day, is running a business, and I think this is a concept that everyone needs to understand. The bank is running a business. Their business is to loan out money to people so that they can claim interest from you. So the bigger the loan amount that they can give to you, the more interest that they will make from you. So it's always in their best interest to give you as big of a loan as possible within the guidelines that has been set by their regulators. So that doesn't necessarily mean that is in your best interest as an individual. You need to look at yourself as an individual to say, Mina, can I afford a bond 6,000 a month? Can I afford it based on what I know? Based on my expenses, based on the fact that I know I enjoy doing X, Y, and Z, and me having to pay 6,000 will basically make me not to be able to afford to do X, Y, and Z. And then now you're sitting at a point where you're unhappy because you can't do those things that you like doing, or you're sitting at a point where you're like, I have a house, I'm still going to do those other things because I still have access to credit. So then you end up being over indebted and you drowning. And then next thing you know, interest rates maybe go up in South Africa, and then your bond repayments goes up. So I always say, like, really look at the amount that you need to pay back and make sure it's an amount that you're happy with, that you're comfortable with. It mustn't be an amount that stresses you. If your bond is 10,000 rands a month and you're not stressed by it, then it's fine. But if it's 10,000 rands a month and it stresses you, then maybe think about 8,000, 7,000, 6,000. It's okay. It's not a race. It's not a race. We're not competing with each other to see who has the biggest house, who lives in Sentin, who doesn't, who lives in KP. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Your life has absolutely nothing to do with anyone else. It has absolutely nothing to do with anyone else. And I think that's just an observation that I've made when looking into how much can you afford really when you are purchasing a property. Yeah, how much can you
and when Nhlakanipho, what's very important when you get into the property industry, being a Khameka, you need to be able to be conscious of your spending. Because property is very expensive. In South Africa, it's very expensive. Number one, you need to save for transfer fees. And if you're willing, and if you want a house that's got a swimming pool with 500 square meters of site in a certain area where you see parks, the landscape and everything, open spaces all over the place, they don't come cheap with those type of properties. So for
Not
a
at all.
2 million property in South Africa, you need at least to have transfer fees of 130,000 rands. That's the minimum that you have to pay. And not only that, Nhlakanipho, once we have that house, there's maintenance. There's maintenance. You need to maintain the garden. You need to ensure that if you have a swimming pool, you need to ensure that pump is always running. The water is clean. That's electricity that goes up. You need to ensure that there's security, because it's a house. If a freestanding house, there's a security. That is a premium that you have to pay every month. For you to be able to secure. You need to ensure that you maintain the structure. There's a home loan insurance. There's a home insurance that the bank, the bond will tell you that they want that home insurance. For anything happens to your house, the house is insured. That's a premium. So if, for instance, you are renting and your what you call them, your monthly expenses were 500 or let's say 1,000 rands, after you have a property, they jump up to even 3,000, because there's a lot of this debit order that go off your account, because it's not like you need them.
Yeah.
Because it's part and parcel of property. So and also it's important that even your lifestyle changes. If you're into property, it changes. You're not like that person that buys expensive things, because you remember that it's important that you have to have emergency savings. That anything happens, you need to have emergency. One day, sometime the rain, one day there's heavy rains, then it starts to leak. You need to fix the roof.
Especially, I think if you own an investment property and you're renting it out to a tenant, those kind of costs also are really important to be considered, because if you're planning what your tenant is going to pay the cost for you, yes, that is very obviously, that's what we all want. But we always need to still be prepared for the time where your tenant ups and leaves and doesn't give you notice and they go. Or they damage your property, they break your windows, they break your cupboards, they do this. There's a lot of negatives that are associated with home ownership and property, but if you are prepared for them, if you know them and you understand them, then they're not really, I think, a negative, because it's like it's a risk that you already know and you're prepared for it and you're ready and you fully understand the home ownership process. Because if you don't understand it, I believe you should rent. It is okay to rent. It is okay to rent until you are ready to purchase your property. You don't want to now buy it because of peer pressure, or buy it because you feel like, I know I need a property and I need it now. You're a qualifier. But think about whether, yes, you are a qualifier, but can you afford it? Because as I mentioned before, qualifying with the bank and your affordability is not the same thing. You know, when you were drawing 500 Rand every month, where you were drawing that 500 Rand to. The bank doesn't know. So we all know our expenses better than anyone. You know, as an individual, where your money is going. If you look at your bank statement, you'll remember. And if there's one thing that traumatized me the one time, was when I looked at my bank statements. I was like, yo, Nhlakanipho, what are you spending your money on?
I know
what
that's
are you
really
spending your money on? Yes.
What you do, you have a notebook and then you start writing all your expenses. How did it come to this amount?
I'm like, Mara, this is how much I earn. These are my expenses. I should have X amount of money left over. Exactly. But I don't.
Exactly.
Why don't I have so that excess money? Is because of those small things that you do. You tap here, you tap there, you tap here, you tap there, you withdraw here, you withdraw there. Hey, yeah, ne?
The lifestyle must change. It's the lifestyle that has to change.
Yeah, but okay then. So then, how do you think maybe your town planning experience has helped you in basically in your investment journey, in purchasing properties, in becoming a property investor? How do you think that link to town planning has really assisted you in that process, in that journey of yours?
For me, town planning is assisted because, remember, I said that we have the first hand of information. I know if, for instance, I see a property that is on sale, I know development that are coming to that area. I know what we are planning to do in that area.
Yeah.
So I have that first hand of information, and I understand that as a best investment, it is where it's closer to amenities, to public transport, access to facilities. That's the best investment because you forever have tenants. So anything that is far to public transport is going to be an issue. And you'll find that most properties that are far properties, they are cheaper than those that are along the public transport routes.
Yeah.
Those that are closer to commercial development are more higher because they know that the value, because they want this easy access to retail.
To work.
Just a few steps away. And there will forever be a demand because everybody wants convenience. So town planning has given me that understanding, that perspective to know that a good investment, it is closer to public transport. The location is important. And I understand what you mean about location.
And that's something we hear a lot in property. Location.
I understand what you mean. Location. It's where it's access, mobility, even the environment, because you find in areas that are well planned and designed, their property values are much higher than those that there's no proper planning. If you live in an area that you see there's more managed open spaces, parks for kids to go play, people to enjoy. The open space is well designed. That area, you know very well that the property, the values, they will always go higher. But any place that there's no service delivery, you know that your investment is not going to be. So that's the perspective. That is how planning has assisted me, because I understand, I understand the value of planning, of how we design our spaces, how important it is we design our spaces. I understand that if, for instance, you are, let's say the municipality or the housing department is planning to build RDP houses, I have that first hand of information that in the 10 years, the site has been bought by human settlement to develop housing development for low-cost housing. As a planner working for local municipalities, you have that advantage to get that information. For you, in Nhlakanipho, you won't know because you're not a town planner, you don't work in the local municipality. You go buy a cheap property somewhere, 10 years down the line, there's housing. Exactly. There is invasion, land invasion.
It is, it really is. One thing that I've identified and I've always thought about is to say, in an area where there's a lot of people, high density areas, that's also a good place to invest in property, because in terms of location, because you must first obviously look at why are a lot of people living here? Why is there so much demand for this area? And if you do realize those things, like it's easy access to transport so that people can get to work, or it's a walkable distance to work, it's a walkable distance to the mall maybe, or easy access to get to the mall, to get to school, to get to work, to get to the gym, to whatever the attraction is. If you're looking at it and there's a lot of people that want to stay there, then chances are that is a good area to invest in. It's just that now, I'm always thinking, how do we try to find these properties below market value in areas that are high demand, because everyone wants to charge premium price, and I think it'll come down to your negotiation skills as to whether you can negotiate for that property or not. So did you negotiate significant discounts on your first investments or second investments? Is it something that you generally do?
First investment, I didn't. I was excited. Your first property, you were excited. You take everything agent tells you. You don't want to lose this deal. If agent
asking price,
do it because
just
you feel like
asking price.
I don't want to mess it. You don't want to mess it up. Become emotional. You don't want to negotiate. You just sign for everything, and then later it hits you. Okay, yeah, I should have negotiated, but it's only the second property. Then let me negotiate, because I know now I negotiate. Then you come and then you check, especially if it's an old house. Let's say it's 10 years or 5 years. You start to check the defects of the property. Then you start and then you work on those. Okay, no, it's fine. I see that there's this. I see there needs to be painting. There needs to be this and that and that. Then you work on those defects. And then you put in the table and say, seller, I see the challenges of. These are the defects of the property. Let's negotiate. I'm interested, but let's negotiate the price.
What type of investments do you, what type of investing do you invest in? Like, is it rental properties, or do you maybe flip properties? Like, what type of investments are you into?
For now, it's mainly on rental properties.
Rental,
I
okay.
haven't done the flipping. I haven't done, maybe something that I can do in the future. But
How's your
flipping,
experience been with renting?
it's so far it's all well and good. I think one thing has assisted me that I let the agent does the running. I can't manage. I don't want to manage tenants. It's a stressful situation. I don't want to get myself into that. So I just let the agent does the managing of the property. The only thing that I want is the rent at the end of the day. So for me, it has not been a very challenging journey so far. Yeah. But flipping also, I would want to get into that industry. But however, remember, shipping, you need to know the construction cost. You need to have your team, your professional team to assist you if you're buying an old house that can be able to renovate and and make it to have more market value. So yeah, but something that I'm thinking of getting into that. But now it's just purely on rental properties.
Okay, that's good. That's good. One thing I've realized with personally from experience, I know that estate agents are really good to relieve your mind, to give you that peace of mind, to just be stress free. Mara, yes, that's my first property. The estate agent gave me a headache. No, I said they gave me a headache. I just I felt like I asked for rental, something so simple, rental statements. Can I please have a rental statement on a monthly basis? Rental statements, you don't get it. Nhlakanipho. I asked for the contact details of the tenants if I ever need to contact them. Never received them. Then finally I was like, you know what, I'm sick and tired of this agent. I think she needs to go now. And I tell her, I'm fine with your services. Goodbye. And then she tells me, oh yeah, by the way, your tenant just moved out. I'm like, what do you mean? Imagine it was like the 28th of the month and they're supposed to pay rent on the 1st, right? And then I'm telling the agent that she must go. I don't want her anymore. She's like, oh yeah, hey, your tenant's left. I'm like, how?
Oh my gosh, that's so not professional.
I'm like, you see, this is why I don't want you. This is why I don't want you, because you're doing a horrible job. Yeah, she did a horrible job with me. But I do know that generally estate agents do help to relieve that pressure of tenants who might want to complain, and just management collecting rents and all of that.
Yeah, because for me, why I decided to go for agent, because I know a friend of mine advised me. He didn't have an estate agent. So he had a friend that was staying over, and was renting the apartment. But somehow the person decided not to pay the rent. It was so difficult to get rid of the tenant. It's not easy. It's not difficult to take out a tenant that is not paying.
There's a lot of laws that protect tenants.
There's a lot of laws. So most other exactly. So other estate agents, they have that facilities, or the service. I mean, that service that they have lawyers, to deal with such situations. So hence, I don't have that capacity myself to be going up and down and back and forth with the tenant.
I fucking do. I fucking do. I'm just joking. But yeah, I agree with you. A tenant who doesn't want to leave, there's absolutely nothing you can do about it besides follow the eviction process, which you have to pay for. And then on top of having to pay for it, it's gonna take a long time for it to happen. It's a headache. Which is why you must make sure.
It can even take you a year to get rid of a tenant.
Yeah, which is why you must make sure, whoever your tenant is, you've screened them properly and
screen them properly.
Yeah, I guess that's where it helps to have an estate agent, because they have the expertise to run those credit checks and what things to look out for. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly, yeah.
I would have fucking do no muntu no nephuma endlini. Red ends. Hey, red ends.
One person said to me, if a tenant doesn't want to pay, you just take a truck and then bulldoze and we take out the roof, and then the person doesn't have the roof on the
Oh, I'm sure. Hey, yeah. So I think yeah, that's something very important that we should all look out for and make sure that we are careful about when we are getting tenants, to screen the tenants appropriately, because you don't. I always say, would you rather have no tenants than have a bad tenant? Because that month where you are actually paying for the bond and all those expenses yourself is going to give you peace of mind to know, Uti, your property is not being damaged. It's not being, because tenants who don't pay, another thing, usually what I've heard and seen a lot, tenants who don't pay generally don't take care of the property as well. And then you're going to find that after the eviction process, 3-6 months down the line, your property is damaged. Your property, and there's no recourse you can, there's nothing you can do, basically.
Yes.
The person says, I don't have money, then I don't have money.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. Because the court will ask you, you'll ask the tenant, how much can you afford?
Yes.
If that person says you can afford 200
and then 200 is what they can afford, then that's what you must take.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what tips? Maybe give us some quick tips. For investing. Like what advice would you give me if I'm looking to purchasing my first investment property? Just so I can get started as well as a young Black woman. Maybe if I'm looking to get started and get involved in property ownership, as a young Black man as well. If I'm looking to grow my portfolio, as we spoke about earlier, Wooting share something for my children, my grandchildren. What do you think? What advice would you give me?
Okay, for that advice I would give about is that, number one, it's important to you have a vision, you write it down. Make it plain and simple. Write it down. This is what I want to achieve. Because when I wrote it down. This is in this 5 years. This is what I want to achieve. And secondly, you need to be or determined and focused. Don't give up. Well, do not be concerned about achieving. Just focus on your lane when be focused and what you don't know we achieve. And also kubalekile ukuthi ube ngumuntu conscious with savings, spending zakho, because the property is expensive. If ngumuntu onganayo habit of saving, so you're going to find yourself in a situation where you have to go and loan money so that you can be able to cover an expense. Property discipline you in that regard. Because if you're not conscious with the spending, your day-to-day spending, that always go by takeaways and go out and having fun and all of that. Yes, there's nothing wrong with having fun, but everything has to have limits. Work according to a budget. And third and fourthly, anything that I can advise about, especially women, Black women, that Tina, we have that thing. For me to buy a property, I need to get married. I must be married. I wait for my husband to buy me a house. I'm not going to bother myself about taking property. I just want to have fun and having life and all of that.
I actually came across a woman this past weekend who said the exact same thing to me. She said she's engaged, so she can't buy her first property. She's waiting till she gets married. I'm like, how long you been engaged for? She's like, 1.5 years. I'm like, girl, go buy your property.
Exactly. So it's important that as a woman, empower yourself. It's empowerment to own property. It's empowerment. When you waking up in Linyako at your own house, making your own rules, even though it's not nice. The first installment, it's not nice, the first installment of your property, but you've got that thing, a console, you know what, I'm not renting, it's mine. Even if there's 10,000 rand that goes off my account, but it's my investment. I can plan it. But okay, next 5 years, I want to put 2 units at the back so that I can cover, some of the expenses of the bond. So you need to be empowered now as a woman and go for it. As like that thing. But I just want to get married and have kids, and then the husband will come, and then no. Now it's 20th century, guys. We women need to go for it, what you want, and be determined and focused. Any that also assisted me, it's my faith, God, because anything, we all work hard, people. I can't say you. All of us wake up in the morning and we work hard. But for me, the favor of God, that walked before me, because it was not an easy journey to get into this industry. It was not an easy journey. I had to fight for it and never give up for it. But I just, God assisted me to open those doors, that were closed for me. So it's important, even the people that you associate yourself with, the people that surround you, they need to speak the same language. You can't have a band of people that will be, when you talk about investment, they say, no, Tommy, man, don't cry about tomorrow. What if you die tomorrow? No, what if you don't die tomorrow? Those things. So you need to be focused. You need to think about tomorrow, what you're going to live for about, and strive for success. Strive for better things in life. That is my motto for me. I never give up for anything. I challenge myself. And into that when Nhlakanipho, that pulls people down, is to be comfortable. You never be comfortable for your situation. You always strive for greater heights. And whatever obstacle, if I deal with that, and then you learn from it, and then you move on. So that for the next challenge, you are able to take the experiences also within the journey, so that you can be able to overcome your next obstacle. So that is what I always challenge myself for anything. Sometimes going by this thing is big for you, but I say, you know what? Yeah. I've got the strength.
And I think it's about too much. There's a lot of
you know what? If I can tell you where I'm, like, for instance, I used to be like, if having a property talk, channel. It was never a person that was shy, even scared to speak in public, even doing presentation. I was a person that was just scared to do that.
Scared.
But every day I challenge myself that give me an opportunity for me to go and speak, so that I can deal with this weakness, so that the weakness can become my strength.
Yeah.
So
you actually just touched on it a little bit, and actually maybe if you can give us a bit more context around it. Property Talk. What is Property Talk, and where can people get hold of Property Talk? What do you do there? What do you talk about? What exactly is like the fundamentals of it, and what inspired you to start it?
What inspired me to start the channel was the fact that for anybody to access that information I share there, you need to pay. It's not an easily accessible information. People, they make wrong decision because they're not informed. They don't have the knowledge. Property, for you to understand what is the right location, you need to consult a town planner. Because on a town planner, it's fees. To understand what it is, the market, how does the market works, property and all of that. Those are the things that consultants does, and it has to pay for it. So about for them to access the information, they need to pay for it. So why can't we create a platform that can assist people so that they can be informed, so that not a person, if I can achieve it, so that the next person can be able to achieve it, and the experiences and the lessons that I've learned from that, they can make, they can assist another person to make a better and informed decision. So for me, it's a platform that gives free advice, property planning, and even if you can see on my channel, I'll invite other professionals, my family, to be part of the conversation, because we're growing up in a family where we are all in built environment. There's quantity surveyors, there's civil engineers, there's building, there's health and safety, it's all in building. So that experience, we are all in the profession, and we have the experience. So we provide the platforms that we can give that information to people, so that about informed. Knowledge is power, people. Knowledge is power. So if you have that knowledge, you are able then to make right decisions, and also to move further with your life. So that is the purpose of Property Talk with the guys. And I've received good feedbacks. People asking every day. I get messages. Can you advise me? Listen, based on the experience, the academic research, because I've started planning, I studied property valuation, I did property development. I'm by profession, I'm a town planner, especially land use management.
Multi-talented woman.
I do project management. So all those
Great.
things, the information that I have, I share it with the public.
That's great. That's beautiful to hear. So it's property talk, right? _Cacisa.
Yes.
So everyone please check out her YouTube channel. I've seen some of the videos that are on your YouTube channel as well. Very informative. And also her Instagram handle, it is property talk _Cacisa. I think the information that you are sharing is very valuable and is very helpful. And I think it really speaks to the reason why I started this journey as well, of sharing property knowledge and my experience in property. Especially like with me, I didn't start out from a position of debt, but I started from a position of someone who wanted to do something and wanted to create wealth, because generally as Black people, we don't come from a background of wealth. So when I started learning and I started implementing and I actually started making some money in property, I was like, this information is so valuable. And it is like, it should be things that we are taught. It should be things that you shouldn't have to learn the hard way. So I just went on that journey as well of saying, hey, this is going to be my platform to share the knowledge with everyone as to how they can invest in property, how they can get started, the buying process, the selling process, anything and everything that is relating to property. Because there's one thing that I hate seeing is when someone makes a mistake that is a mistake that could have been avoided if they had known, but they didn't know. And like something so stupid, like you didn't know, therefore now you're sitting maybe with a large amount of debt, or you're sitting with a horrible tenant, or because you didn't know that you need to make sure that you screen your tenants appropriately. If someone says they can afford 5,000 rands a month, you need to make sure, put in place certain measures to make sure that they really can afford 5,000 rands a month, So it's things like that. And I really do, I commend you, and siyabonga, Cacisa, siyabonga singayini ngaphandle kwakho. Thank you very much for your presence and today's live session. It really has been informative, and it has been an absolute honor to have you today.
It was an honor indeed. Thank you so much, Nam, for inviting me to your space. I get excited when I see Black young people, getting excited with property, trying to uplift another person, and so that all of us can be better, and be informed, about it. Because rightly said, you would make wrong decision because you're not informed. Just briefly, now one of the things that the decision that I still regret today was when I didn't invest in a property in Cape Town back then. I think that's 2010, and I'd opt to buy a car than to invest in that property, because I felt I'm scared of long-term obligation, because we're coming from Black families, township, where a property is like, take property. Long term, what if you're blacklisted? What if you don't pay? Then you'll be blacklisted and they come. Those are the mentalities that we're coming from. So you get scared about the long-term investment property. So I let go of the property and I opt to buy a car. But that property was around 600,000 back then. But now, that was about 7 years ago. But now the value of the property is 1.9 million. Because I was scared to invest, because the developer told me that I need to secure 20,000 for deposit so that I can secure the unit. And I thought, why should I secure unit? Why should I pay money because I want to? I really walked away from that deal because of 20,000 rands that I didn't want to pay. But and when I see that development, I'm like, gosh, I will be now 900,000 richer now. And where is that car?
Millionaire. Multi-millionaire.
Where is that car? I can't even remember what happened to that car. I think I sold it for 50,000 rands. For what? And now I can't even afford. Like now I can't afford. Not that I can't afford. I say I can't afford to buy a one-bedroom apartment for 1.9 million. for me, it doesn't make sense for that. But just imagine if I bought at that time.
Yeah.
I'll be richer. So this is the information that we are sharing to people. That people, let's wake up now. No,
Yeah.
let's wake up. Yeah.
I agree. Anyway, kodwa ngiyabonga kakhulu.
Let me stop talking. I love talking.
Yeah, ngiyabona.
Never stop talking.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu kodwa anyway, and I really hope that we can have another session like this soon, where we are just sharing knowledge, having a conversation around property, you know, and building each other as people.
Yes, of course. Definitely. I'm open for that discussion anytime.
All
Thank
right,
you so
cool.
much for your invite.
Absolute pleasure, and enjoy the rest of your evening, né?
You too. Thank you guys for watching. God bless you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, guys, so that was Nhlakanipho, Nhlakanipho, property investor from blacklisted. She was blacklisted all the way to being a property investor. I think that is a really, really good story that she told us today. Maybe if you missed a part of it, the live did cut at some point, just closer to the beginning, but she did explain to us that she's literally went from someone who was blacklisted, had so much debt, to someone who is now financially savvy, responsible, and owns properties that she's renting out to other people. It really is possible, and I'm so glad that we actually have someone who is a young black woman who's a young black woman who's actually gone through the worst and now is experiencing the best, to see that both sides are possible. Like, it's easy to make bad financial decisions, don't get me wrong. It really is easy. And making bad financial decisions generally is nice. You're just spending your money recklessly, and it's nice. However, it has long-term effects. It has effects that are going to prevent you from being successful as an individual. It's going to prevent you from investing in property if you wish to go through the route of bond financing. Unless you have like 600,000 rands cash lying around, you're going to need some sort of financing maybe to get started. So yeah, I think it really has been a very info session. If you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to DM me or DM Nhlakanipho. Her page is propertytalk_Nhlakanipho. So DM her, she answers her DMs, she'll answer your questions relating to property, town planning. I'm not a town planner, so if it's any town planning related questions, direct them to her. I'm sure she'd be more than willing to assist. And any other property related questions, you can DM me. Also DM me if who else do you want me to host on a live show? Like, what type of profession involved in property? Because I do want to share experiences from people from different backgrounds, because my experience will come from my understanding of property, and Nhlakanipho is coming from a different perspective, from town planning. She understands location very well, so she knows where to invest, when to invest, because she knows what the municipality is planning ahead. Which is information that she did mention that is easily accessible to everyone who's in the public. However, we just choose not to access it. Yeah, she works with it, so she's actually capitalizing on that information and investing in areas that are up and coming, so that she can benefit from capital appreciation of properties. So yeah, those type of things are those type of professionals that you would like to see on a live. Just DM me or comment on this live. I will save the IG. The IG live, I will save it, and you guys can make reference to it whenever you wish. Yeah, that's it from me. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you very much for joining me. Cheers.